Namaskar everyone. I hope you are able to hear me okay. We are very fortunate and grateful to kickstart the very first plenary of our summit in the divine presence of Mangalnidhidas Swamiji and Gauranga Das Prabhuji. To my immediate left is Mangalnidhidas Swamiji. Growing up in Houston, Texas, Swamiji earned his bachelor's in psychology and biology from Harvard University. After a year of MBA at Yale, he took sannyasa to commence his monastic training in Bharat, where he was ordained as a Swami by His Holiness Pramukh Swami Maharaj in 2003. He spent 8 years in Bharat, rigorously practicing and studying the BAPS Swaminarayan Seminary at the BAPS Swaminarayan Seminary at Sarangapur in Gujarat. Swamiji currently serves at the Swaminarayan Akshardham Mandir in Robbinsville, New Jersey, overseeing the BAPS English publications in North America, and he is also the director of BAPS Swaminarayan Research Institute. Being a great spiritual guide to many, he also has authored and translated many articles, chapters, and books, including a 2-volume biography of Bhagwan Swaminarayan's successor, Gunatitananda Swami. To my further left is Gauranga Das Prabhuji. Gauranga Das Prabhuji, a graduate of IIT Bombay, is a mindful meditation expert, sustainability and climate warrior, as well as a social welfare catalyst. A member of ISKCON's governing body commission, he has been actively involved in enhancing leadership effectiveness and governance of temples and communities globally. He is the director of ISKCON's Govardhan Eco Village, or GEV, founded by Radhanath Swami Maharaj. The GEV has won several awards and accreditations from various UN bodies. On behalf of ISKCON, he is the UNEP's Faith for Earth Counselor. He sits on the board of the Govardhan School of Public Leadership. He is also the administrative director of Bhakti Vedanta Research Center, or BRC, which creates libraries for Vedic literature and manuscripts and facilitates MA and PhD programs in philosophy. With his immense expertise in presenting Vedic knowledge to the contemporary audiences, he has authored 2 national bestseller books, The Art of Resilience and The Art of Focus, and he has spoken at TEDx events and corporates like Intel, Salesforce, Google, etc. With that, we'll start the conversation for today. Starting the conversation with Mangalnidhidas Swamiji. Swamiji, I would like to request you to share your thoughts on the terms Hindu and Dharma, which we hear a lot, and how the two are related.
Gunatitam aksharam brahma bhagavan purushottamah jano janannidam satyam uchyate bhavabandhanat. Before I start, I'm thrilled to see so many young Hindu students who have come from around the country to really, for the sake of Hindu Dharma. And so it's appropriate that we start off this event to try to understand what is Hindu Dharma. Dharma, as you probably are aware, is a multivalent term. It is a word with many, many meanings. It can mean religion, it can mean duty, code of conduct. In different contexts, in different places, it has had so many different meanings. And so sometimes it can become confusing to us. But in the essence of Dharma, I believe Bhagwan Swaminarayan in the Shikshapatri, he has defined Dharma. He's written Dharma Gneyo Sadachara. Know Dharma to be Sadachar. Sadachar it means correct or proper or right action. So in a sense, Dharma is simply doing the right thing. To do the right thing is Dharma. Oh, that's easy enough, except how do we know what is the right thing? And that's where the real challenge lies, in trying to understand what is Dharma. Of course, inspired by God, the sages and seers of Hinduism have explained or conveyed what is the right thing, what is right action, through their lives and their teachings. And that itself is Hindu Dharma. In another way, these explanations, if I was to give you the essence of them, the action which leads us and everyone towards lasting and true peace and happiness is Dharma. The actions which lead us and everyone towards lasting and true peace and happiness is Dharma. This is the right thing to do. Now, of course, in such a definition, it's a universal thing. Just like everyone to survive requires food, water, air. These things are universal needs for survival. In the same way, to attain inner peace and happiness, we require, as humans, we require the principles of Dharma. We must practice the principles of Dharma. That's the very definition. And so it doesn't just apply to Hindus or to a certain faith community. It applies to everyone. Anyone who wants to be happy and at peace, they must follow these principles. So now, what exactly these principles are and what these practices are, that is something that has taken people years and generations to truly understand. But because I have 10 minutes or now 7 minutes to finish this, I will give you in a very brief way. I would suggest we look at what is our Dharma from three perspectives. Our Dharma with relation to God. Our Dharma with relation to ourself, and our Dharma and with relation to others, right? So God, ourself, and others, what is our Dharma? We're going to look at it from three perspectives. I'm trying to condense the ideas for you. So our Dharma related to God. So again, I'll remind you, Dharma is simply doing the right thing, Sadachar. What is the right thing? This is the question. Oftentimes, our mind tells us that, okay, this is the right thing to do, this is the ethical thing to do, this is the moral thing to do. But then sometimes we become confused because there's so many options for us we don't really know. This sort of confusion was the dilemma faced by Arjuna at the beginning of the Mahabharata war. Right? He went to war, he got ready for war thinking that it is my duty, the right thing to do is to conquer the Kauravas because they are adharmic, and so we must conquer them. But then, because of his own inner issues, he became confused. He said, he came into the Kurukshetra in the middle of the battlefield and he said, these are my relatives, these are my elders. It's not right action for me to try to kill them or defeat them. What will happen to society if I do this? There'll be such misery for generations to come. Oh, this is the wrong thing to do. Now he has these problems. His mind is telling him, right? He is telling him that, okay, no, this is right or this is wrong, and there's so much confusion within that. And so Krishna Bhagavan then starts the Gita. He starts to explain to Arjuna that this is what your Dharma is. And Arjuna has constant questions throughout. That, what about this? What about this? What is the right thing? At the very end of the Gita, in chapter 18, verse 66, Krishna Bhagavan gives the final statement on what is Dharma. He tells Arjuna, Sarva dharman parityajya, mam ekam sharanam vraja, aham tvam sarva papepyo, moksha yishyami ma sucha. This means all the things that you are thinking in your mind that this is the right thing to do, this is Dharma, right? This is the concepts that you have in your mind, that this is what is right, this is what I should do, this is what I should do. Renounce all of that. Absolutely renounce all of that. Get rid of that. And surrender to me. Surrender to me, which means accept what I tell you to do, and only that. Because, and if you can understand that Krishna Bhagavan is God, so obviously he knows what is the right thing to do more than Arjuna. He knows what is Dharma more than Arjuna. And the second issue with this is Arjuna, although he may know what is the right thing to do, he's unable because of his internal issues to do it. But if he surrenders completely to God, then he gives up all of the things that are inside and just says, I'll do whatever God, whatever you say. Karishye vachanam tava. Right? So this, Bhagavan Swaminarayan in the Vajradharma, he explains this shlok in the Gita, and he says, truly, Sharanagati, which means surrender to God, this is dharma. Dharma is encompassed in this. Because if we surrender to God, not only do we understand what is actually the right thing to do, but we are inspired to actually do that right thing. So surrender to God is dharma. So when I say what is dharma with relation to God, the things that we do that bring us closer to absolute surrender to God. Surrender means devotion to God, acceptance of His will, following His commands. This is all surrender to God. The things that bring us closer to that is actually dharma. Bhakti is dharma. So this is the principle, and I think you hopefully understand how that works, but how do we put that into practice? What do I do? Because again, dharma gnayo sadachara. Doing the right thing, the practice of the right thing is dharma. So how do I bring this principle of surrender to God into practice in my life as a student? There's so many things you could do. I would suggest 4 things to start with. 4 things, simple. The first thing I would suggest is reading, then rituals, then prayer, and then mandir. Reading, rituals, prayer, and mandir. 4 things. As students, you can all do them. All of these things, they are meant to help you get closer to absolute surrender to God. Reading. Reading what? Not novels, not your textbooks, but you should have a daily practice of reading our scriptures. Because when you, even for 5 minutes or 10 minutes daily, if you read our scriptures, then you will slowly begin to understand God's glory, the greatness of God. As you understand the greatness of something, then you develop attachment or affection for it, that this is a good thing. And so when you understand God's glory, you develop devotion towards God. And that ultimately ends up as surrender. So this leads us towards surrender. And again, remember, Sharanagati or surrender is dharma. Right? So reading is a practice that helps us achieve this. Reading our scriptures, reading about the glory of God, and also reading about our enlightened gurus. Because our enlightened gurus, they see God with absolute surrender. So when we read about their lives, we see God through their eyes. And that inspires us to also become like them, great bhaktas. Right? So this is something, reading as a daily practice is part of our dharma that we can do. 5 minutes a day can end up as thousands and thousands of minutes in a year, and throughout our lives it can transform it. Reading is one practice. The second thing is rituals. Our devotional rituals towards God is something that we can do, a practice we can do every day. One of them is arti, puja, mantra jap, meditation, dhyan, whatever you feel inclined to, but doing these practices every day will help bring us closer. It will reaffirm our devotion to God. The third thing I mentioned is prayer. Prayer is our personal conversation, our personal relationship with God. That's something that we should do every day. That will bring us closer to surrender. And the fourth thing I mentioned is mandir. Mandir, maybe you should have a ghar mandir in your dorm. Or at least you should try to go to the mandir that is nearby, because mandir is a tirth stan. Tirth, understand tirth? We call tirth as a place of pilgrimage. But the Sanskrit meaning of the word tirth is a ford, not the car ford. But in a river, back in the old days when they didn't have bridges, you would have to find a place in the river that was shallow so you could go across. You could cross over from one side to the other. That was called a ford. That the Sanskrit word for ford is tirth. Tirth is a place of crossing over from the mundane and the worldly to the divine. These are what our mandirs are. We come to the mandirs, we do darshan, we engage in all these rituals, and that helps us cross over towards God. That's why mandirs should be part of our regular practice. These 4 things are our dharma related to God, our dharma related to ourself now, the second part. What is our dharma related to ourself? So in one sense, I'm telling you, okay, Sharanagati is dharma, surrender is dharma, we should surrender to God. But it's not just as easy as saying, okay, I surrender, hands up, I'll do whatever you say. It's not like that. Because inside of ourself, we have so many negative pollution and garbage and different things that we have to get rid of, our ego and attachments to worldly things and all these things. And that prevents us from absolutely surrendering to God. And so part of our dharma to ourself is doing the practices that purify our inside. This is very important. To keep our inside pure, only then can we actually truly surrender to God. There's an interesting story. One time, Bhagwan Swaminarayan, some of the devotees were meeting with him, and then they were leaving. And so they said, as they were leaving, they said, please have compassion on us. And Bhagwan Swaminarayan said, yes, definitely, and please you have compassion on me. And so they left. And then as they were walking back to their homes, they thought, wait, what did he mean when he said we should have compassion on you? How do we have compassion on God? And so they went back and they asked him, what did you mean we should have compassion on you? And so Bhagwan Swaminarayan explained that, in your chest there's your heart, it's the size of a fist, and in your heart I reside. And when you start polluting your inside, your heart, you do with worldly things, with negative things, with wrong things, and that all pollutes your heart. And I'm sitting there, it's very uncomfortable for me, so please have compassion on me and stop doing this and keep your heart pure. Okay, so when we have to surrender to God, we have to think that, okay, we must keep ourselves pure, only then can we actually surrender. There's so many things that we should do in our life that will keep our inside pure, our heart pure. There's a Mahant Swami Maharaj, our guru, BAPS. He's just recently, 3-4 years ago, written a Dharma Shastra called the Satsang Diksha. Dharma Shastra is a tradition in our religion, in Hinduism, when they explain to us what we should do. Mahant Swami Maharaj wrote this Satsang Diksha. It's a beautiful book, very short, 300 shloks, 315 shloks. But in it, he talks about all the different things we must do for ourselves to keep our heart pure, to keep us pure so that we can surrender to God. But I'm just going to mention 5 brief things that throughout Hinduism we accept. These are principles of dharma for ourselves. Satya, Daya, Ahimsa, Brahmacharya, and Asteya. These are 5 things, principles, that we should try to imbibe in order to keep our heart pure, keep ourselves pure. Satya is honesty. The practice of Satya. So Satya is honesty, Daya is compassion, Ahimsa is nonviolence, Brahmacharya is sexual continence, and Asteya is not stealing. And these principles, we can apply them in practice. Bhagwan Swaminarayan gives us these 4 things. He says that you should not engage or indulge in any alcohol or intoxicants or addictions, because otherwise you cannot remain honest with yourself and others. So no alcohol, no addictions. This is a very important practice. The second thing he says is vegetarian, because if you want daya and ahimsa, then you cannot eat meat. So you should be vegetarian. The third thing he says is that you should not have conjugal relations outside of marriage, brahmacharya. And the fourth thing he says is that you should not steal. Right? These things are practices that apply these principles to our lives. So this is, I mentioned dharma to God, Sharanagati, surrender. In order to surrender, we need to keep ourselves pure. These practices help us do that. This is dharma for ourselves. Dharma in relation to others. I think there's not any time left anymore, so we'll cover that in the future things, but I'll give you in brief. Pramukh Swami Maharaj, he used to say, his life philosophy was, in the joy of others lies our own. In the good of others rests our own, in the progress of others abides our own. This was a philosophy he lived by, and the core principle running through this is seva, service. Our dharma for others is service, and we can do so many types of service that can help other people. The greatest service that we can do is to follow the other 2 dharmas I mentioned, Sharanagati to God and keeping ourselves pure, because that will inspire others to do the same thing, and that will actually lead to lasting peace and happiness. Jai Swaminarayan.
Dhanyavad Swamiji. Moving to Gauranga Prabhuji, I'd like to ask, why do you think such an ancient concept of Dharma is still relevant in the 21st century America, where everything has moved on so much with the new changing world? Swamiji, please share your thoughts.
Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmritam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Pranam Mangalnidhi Swamiji, thank you for your illuminating talk on Dharma. Thanks to Hindu YUVA for inviting me for this session, and congratulations to all of you for taking out valuable time, energy, resources to come all the way here to be absorbed in understanding how to create transformation in society through self-transformation. Today, the world is at a very difficult situation environmentally. 8.4 million deaths happen every year prematurely due to air pollution. 2.3 billion people across the world are in water-distressed condition. Almost 2.4 billion tons of solid waste is created every year across the world. More than 300 million tons of plastic is created, and 1 million aquatics are killed globally because of pollution. You ask about America. If you look at the water situation, the kind of diversity which is seen in this country, there are 7.4 million swimming pools in America. And if each swimming pool uses almost 18,000 gallons of water, so it's almost 113 trillion gallons of water which is used in all of this. If you look at golf courses, there are 16,000 golf courses, and a typical one round of golf course uses 3,800 gallons of water, and 90 rounds of golf in one particular course per day, which is almost 4.8 billion gallons of water just in all of these golf courses. And you can imagine in a country like Thailand, the water which is used in one golf course could practically serve almost 6,000 villages. So we are living in an entire situation across the whole world where there are multiple issues, problems, challenges, and these are basically at three levels. At the level of social impact, because of so much of diversity, so much of difference in the way people are living their lives. In terms of sustainability, there are challenges across food, water, energy, waste globally. But at the core of all of it, yes, there are problems in sustainability, there are problems in social inequity, but the core of it is, as Swamiji wonderfully described, is not being able to understand the principle of dharma, the duty of the individual, and more specifically, the duty which the individual has, understanding his core identity as an Atma, as a soul. People are living lives with education system, with degrees, trying to live 8 other identities, which is different from the identity as a soul. We are all very conscious of our identity with respect to our body. We are very conscious of our identity with respect to husband or wife, our identity with respect to children, our identity with respect to our home, our identity with respect to our vehicle, our identity with respect to money, our identity with respect to social acceptance or rejection, our identity with respect to our career and influence. So the Bhagavad Puran describes these 8 as the sum total of all the identities which we are trying to protect and maintain in our 24 hours of life and our entire lifetime. And success is defined by us in the modern paradigm in the secular paradigm as our ability to maintain these identities as per our expectations. Atmajaya suta gara pashudravana bandhushu rajye cha vikale nityam virudham mamatam jaho. This verse encapsulates these 8 identities I described. But all spiritual traditions describe an identity beyond these, and that's the identity we have as a soul, as an Atma, which is eternal. And that Atma, the soul, is connected to the Ishwar, who is also eternal. So therefore there is a Sanatan Ishwar, there is a Sanatan Atma, and that Ishwar is connected to the Atma, just as a father is connected to a son or daughter. So that relationship between the Atma and Ishwar is that of Seva. And because Jiva or Atma is Sanatan, Ishwar is Sanatan, the connection of Seva is also Sanatan. And this is basically the principle of Sanatan Dharma, which is duty. So therefore, we don't say that you don't perform your duty towards your deha or sharir. Therefore, that is a dharma towards the body, dharma towards husband and wife, dharma towards kids, dharma towards your house, dharma towards your vehicle, dharma towards your money, dharma towards your social acceptance, dharma towards your career. All of these are bona fide dharmas. But when we speak about Sanatan Dharma, we are speaking about that duty which transcends all of this, which does not change when all of these others change. And therefore, dear friends, this dharma has to be understood in the context of 4 principles. The first is purity in our proclivity or intention. That is known as Shuddhata. Just to share with you, I was giving prasad to one college student in India. And the student started refusing and saying, "Nahi, nahi, I will not take prasad, I will not take prasad." I said, "Baba, you are the first guy who is refusing prasad. I have seen people refusing Bhagavad Gita, but I have never seen anybody refusing prasad. Kya ho gaya? Why you are not taking prasad?" He says, "Nahi, nahi, dar lagta hai. I am afraid." I said, "Why? What are you afraid of?" He said, "Dar lagta hai, mera bhi hairstyle aapke jaisa ho jayega." So I said, no. The principle is that we first understand that duty means we begin with purity in our proclivity. How do I rise above the intention of fear to the intention of desire to the intention of at least duty, and then come to the level of intention of love? Pragada premer e svabhava achar nij dukkha vignadirano kore bichar. In every relationship there is scarcity, impediment, discomfort, unhappiness. Still the relationship continues. That is called love. The ability to serve even in the midst of experiencing great pain, to give pleasure to others selflessly. That's called purity, Shuddhata. And that's what Sanatana Dharma tradition was focused on. Arjuna was a warrior, Duryodhan was a warrior. Somebody told me, "Arey, you guys are always criticizing Duryodhan. He was a good administrator." I said, "Why don't you keep your son's name Duryodhan?" He says, no, I will not keep." I said, "Why? He was a good administrator, no?" Then he thought for some time and he said, "No, kuch to gadbad tha." Why? Intention. So, when I was in IIT, one of my friends tried to commit suicide. We were shocked because he was a good student. And we approached him and said, "Why did you try to commit suicide?" And he said, "In every exam I would get the gold medal. In this exam I got the silver medal. I could not handle it. I'm used to coming number 1. I said, my God, this is crazy. People are dying to enter IIT. You are inside IIT trying to die. And in the same exam, 4 or 5 of my other friends failed in 3-4 subjects. They were moving around the campus peacefully, blissfully, as if nothing happened, blessing others. And I turned to them and said, Arey, you guys are very besharam. You have failed in 3-4 subjects, you are moving around peacefully. What is your philosophy in life? And they said, अपना philosophy simple है, कॉलेज में घुसना अपना काम है, निकालना कॉलेज का काम है. Now, let me give you a disclaimer that I am speaking to university students. That is not what I am promoting here. But the point is, if we work with the wrong intentions, then our entire process of performing our duty will get derailed. Therefore, the first principle of dharma is purity in proclivity, which I call as shuddhata. Second principle is stability in identity. We have an identity which I just described, 8 types of identities, but we can only become stable when we realize I am a soul who doesn't change, an Ishwar who doesn't change, and a relationship of seva between me and the Ishwar. That's what Mangalnidhidas Swamiji described as prayer or prarthana. Why is prarthana emphasized? So that we begin every day with the kavach of understanding that I do not change. Everything else may change, but the relationship I have with Ishwar doesn't change. That's called stability in identity. And therefore, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Dehenosmin yatha dehe kaumaram yauvanam jara tatha dehantara praptir dhiras tatrana muhyati. The soul continues through the changing bodies. And that soul is described by Krishna as Mamaivamsho jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana manah shasthani indriyani prakritisthani karshati. The soul is part and parcel of the Supreme. And therefore, if I know it's going to rain and I do not carry the umbrella and I become wet and I start blaming the weather, it's ridiculous. The only thing which is guaranteed through the day is change. And there is only one cause of fear in your life, which is change. And you have the ability to protect yourself and prepare yourself from the virus of change by vaccinating yourself, by immunizing yourself every morning. And that's called prayer. Prayer is the immunity to protect yourself and your mind against the virus of change. When I joined the ashram, I was sent to the kitchen to serve. In a week's time, another monk joined. He was also sent to the kitchen, and I asked him to make chapatis. After 3 days, he came to me and started complaining. I'm such a big speaker in my village. Everybody's impressed with my lectures. I joined ISKCON to become a speaker, not to make chapati. Prachar karne aaya hu, chapati banane nahi. I said, why you're telling me, मैं भी chapati बना रहा हूँ? What's the point you and me talking? He would come and complain every 3 days that you guys didn't recognize my talent. I'm supposed to be this, that, I'm a speaker. After 1 month, he took his bag and came to me and said, I'm leaving. Ghar ja raha hu. I said, why? He said, you didn't recognize my talent. I came to be a speaker. Chapati banane nahi. 10 years later, I met him at a program. He came running up to me and he said, after I left the ashram, I got married. After marriage, my wife got back pain. Ghar pe roz chapati main hi banata hu. And then he said, maybe I should have tolerated. So many times, we are in a very unstable state because of various false identities we impose upon ourselves. So we need stability in identity. That is called sthirata. Shuddhata, sthirata, and third is you need flexibility in your activity. Because your mission remains same, the methods to achieve the mission may go on changing. And therefore, as Jaimin beautifully described the journey of Hindu YUVA right from 2006, the mission has remained same, but 2006 Instagram was not there. So the methods you used were different, and now some methods have changed. And therefore, there has to be flexibility in your activity, and that's extremely important. And so Krishna says to Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita, Matra sparshastu kaunteya shitoshna sukha dukkhadaha agamapaino anityastam titikshassu bharata. My dear Arjuna, just like seasons change, like that situations may change, tolerate and continue performing your duty. So this flexibility is called snigdhata. Snigdha is coming from the Sanskrit word sneha, which means ghee. Ghee is always ready to be consumed into flames, available, flexible. When I was going for a program with two of my American friends, it was a lecture at IIT Kharagpur. We landed in Kolkata and we were informed it is Bengal Bandh. We were welcomed with garlands, and I told the organizers, Bengal Bandh means cars don't move, so today program must be cancelled. They said, no, program is on. I said, how we will travel 3 hours to Kharagpur from Kolkata airport? And they said, we have come to pick you up in an ambulance. Ambulance, that's called out-of-box thinking. And as we were entering the ambulance, my two American friends asked me, why are we entering ambulance? I said, good question, but the answer will take me half an hour. Because first I have to explain what is bandh. That itself will take some time. So better you sit in the back, I'll sit in front, I'll manage the show. In the middle, somebody stopped us and said, we want to see who's behind. I said, go and see. They looked inside, and my two American friends with garlands around their neck, after taking breakfast, were sleeping peacefully. They looked inside and said, Inki Atma ko Shanti mile. And we reached within 3 hours. So therefore, many times situations may appear that there is a roadblock. But the Ganga moves, even though there are boulders and rocks, finds its way. And therefore, dear friends, discipline is a fusion of intention with action. And no matter what kind of obstacles may come in your way, you have to remain flexible. That's called snigdhata or flexibility. And the fourth principle is what is known as clarity in your publicity, in your communication. And that is known as spashtata. That whatever may happen, you realize that yes, I should not allow my other emotions to clutter my ability to comprehend things and communicate things. And therefore Krishna says, Trividam narakasyedam dwaram nashanam kamam krodham tatha lobham tasmat etatrayam tajet. Krishna says, beware of these 3 things which will clutter your thought process, which will clutter your communication, which will clutter your clarity, which is greed, lust, and anger. These are, he calls as Shatru, biggest enemies. I was giving a lecture in Yeravada jail in Pune. 500 prisoners were sitting in front of me. Believe me, I love jail programs. You know why? Audience is guaranteed. You don't need RSVPs. You don't need to plan in advance. You know, these many will come. So I gave the lecture and said, any questions? One prisoner raised his hand and said, I have a question. I said, ask. He said, I will come on the stage and ask the question. I got worried. I asked the commissioner of police, Kaun hai bhai ye? Who's this? And commissioner said, he has committed 12 murders. I said, am I going to be 13th? He says, no, don't worry, let him come. He came and asked the question, everybody clapped and everything, and I asked him after giving the answer, at such a young age, how could you commit so many crimes? And he said, when anger envelops my intelligence, I lose discrimination. And therefore, I just don't know what to do. But fortunately now I've been asked to translate books in the Braille language, and the recent book I'm translating is Bhagavad Gita, and that has really opened my mind. Therefore, dear friends, spashtata, clarity is very important. And so, let me encapsulate these 4 principles again. Shuddhata, or purity in proclivity. Second, sthirata, stability in identity. Third, snigdhata, flexibility in one's activity. And fourth, spashtata, clarity in publicity in our communication. And so, all of you are part of education system. The word education comes from the Latin word educare, which means to bring that which is within. And in the Vedic Sanatana Dharma tradition, education just did not mean imposition of information, but actually transformation. And therefore, today, all education system and university students are only speaking about success, 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 Vijay, Vijay, Vijay. But Vedic Sanatana Dharma tradition and all our ancient wisdom spoke about 3 other things which were the foundation for Vijay. First was Vivek, which is discrimination. Second was Vairagya, renunciation from that which is not favorable for our progress and for others. And third was Vinay, which is humility, which comes from the Latin word humus, which means soil. The soil in which the seed of education or knowledge actually grows. So only when there is Vivek, Vinay, and Vairagya, there can be a possibility of Vijay. And when we do not take care of these principles, in the absence of understanding of Sanatana Dharma, the world is going through suffering the way we are experiencing today. And I can see that right in front of me are 400 plus young, powerful, dynamic, hope-giving soldiers who are going to transform society for the better in future. And I congratulate Saumitraji Gokhale, my dear friend, who's been leading this initiative, and Jaimin and his team for inspiring all of you to come here for this 2 days shiver, so that you go with certain narratives, certain perspectives, which will transform the way you look at things. And I congratulate you and thank you for inviting me. Pranam.
Thank you so much, Swamiji. With that, we'll conclude our first session. I'd again like to thank our speakers, both the Swamijis, for your esteemed presence and guidance. Thank you. We'll stay for felicitation.
Now, I would like to invite Jaiminji back on stage to honor our speakers with a token of appreciation.